Welcome to the Ada K Show. I'm your host, Ada K, and I am a criminal justice major. I am also a deaf courtroom commentator, breaking down the gripping courtroom drama while providing full ASL interpretation, making justice accessible to everyone. Grab a cup of Java and let's dive in. Don't forget, comment, like, and subscribe. And if you love this channel, please become a member. Okay, guys, we got verdict. Verdict is in. I see this live now. I don't know why the other live wasn't showing up, but we are live in two different lives just to make sure that one goes live. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why the other one's not showing up. I'm ending this one. We're going to hop on over to the other one. All right, guys, we are live over here. I am trying to make sure it was glitchy with Facebook. There we go. All right, let's get into court. Miss June, are you seeing this on YouTube? All right, I got everything up and running. I hope so. Yay, we're all here. Good evening, everybody. We have a verdict. Oh, of course I'm going to go live, but I was knee deep in okay, guys, I've never taken 3 major college classes at one time. Never have I ever done 3 heavy classes on the internet like I'm doing right now. And that was by accident. That was definitely by accident. And I thought I was going to do one class for 16 weeks, one class for 8 weeks. And then when the other class for 8 weeks would start after the first one. No, I got 2 8-week classes and a 6-week going all at the same time. So Fridays and Saturdays are real heavy with homework. So I'm trying to be ahead of the curve because we've got this incumbent bad weather. For some reason, Facebook, you're not going to get it. Sorry. It's not going to allow me to go on Facebook for some reason. Okay. I'll just post it later. I'll post it after the fact. We have a verdict. Okay. I don't know if I have sound, but y'all will let me know if the sound doesn't work right. Okay. Save changes. Who all is here? Hello, everybody. Good evening. Yes, I'm still sipping on coffee decaf. I took my first quiz, got 100%. I've written 2 papers. I've gone my 3rd paper, and then I've got a lot to do. Yeah. I went and got heaters because of the cold weather coming in. I live in a house that's a pier and beam, and the kitchen sink is on the north wall. They did not put any insulation between the wall and the pipes, I guess, because it always freezes. And I always put a little small, open up the cabinets, take the chemicals and whatever out, and then I put a very small, it's about this big square heater just at the front of it, and it just blows heat and keeps it on low, just keeps it warm so the pipes won't freeze. So I'm hoping that happens. Now, guys, what we're going to do is it comes Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. If I have no power on Monday, and I think we're supposed to have a mod meeting or something this week, we'll see what happens. But if I lose power and I'm not able to stream, Miss June or Miss Angela will stream, and then I will come in on the cell phone. That reminds me, I got to start charging all my bricks. Got to start charging all my power sources. Yes, y'all. I got to start doing all my power sources. Because you know what? That really sucks when you don't have power. I lived like that long, and when we had a 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we had a massive ice storm. They say this is supposed to be worse. I don't think so. It doesn't look like it's going to be worse. It would only be worse if it stalled and stayed a lot longer than they're anticipating. We got a lot of people with us. Oh my gosh, a lot of people we haven't seen in a while. Barbara, I'm going at Callie. Girl, oh my gosh, haven't seen you in a while. At Zeba. Oh my gosh, hadn't seen you in a while either. Oh my gosh, you've been a member a month. Oh my gosh, thank you. KRY. Okay, that's not coming up for some reason. Everybody, thank you so much for being a member. Appreciate you so much. Now let's see if it'll come up. Why is it not coming up, Crystal? Hope I got it right. I had to hand type it in and it just pop up. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Hi, Nightbot. Hi, honey. Hello, SFF in text. Hello, all of you. I just stopped typing because there's so many of you here I just can't get. I just stopped typing. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you here. I look at the stress on these people. What's going to be horrible is if he's found not guilty, they are going to feel robbed, very much so robbed. They're going to feel like all this was in vain. And I don't blame them at all. I have been in that position when my husband went up. And do you know what's interesting, y'all? Tomorrow will be the anniversary that my husband was convicted of a crime. And I remember that today would have been the day on that Wednesday, I had a lumpectomy. And then on Thursday, I'm testifying in his case. I was the last witness to testify. And I testified, and then they rested and went to jury and all of that good stuff. And he was convicted. Tomorrow is that anniversary. And I whether you're on the families of the victims or the victim side, or you are on the defendant side, this is very sickening. They deliberated for almost 7 hours. It was 6 hours plus. I didn't stop my clock, but I think it was just over 7 hours. How many years ago? Oh gosh, 15? 15 years ago. But this is the first time that I can remember in the 15 years that the 19th happened to be Martin Luther King Day, and all the dates and everything lined up exactly as they were that week. So I'll have to be honest. Hold on, now I got an e-dispatch. Hold on, guys. I'm a firefighter. We have a grass fire, so I may be fighting a fire tonight. We're going to see. Well, we're going to watch it, see how bad it is. Okay, Herbie, where is it? And if you're going, let me know. I can ride with, but I don't know if we're going to go unless it's a big burn. It will take me 2 hours to get there. Well, Less than that. If I put my red light on and I woo all the way there, it'll take me about an hour and 15. If it is going to be a fire that you're going to be on for at least 2 to 3 hours, let me know. I'll come up there. All right. So, yay, I may go out there and fight fire in the cold. No, it was beautiful here today. It was 68 degrees. The sun was shining. It was gorgeous. And then it's going to become hell this weekend. Okay, oh man, this is horrible. I'm nervous. I get really anxious. I really do. Even though I have no skin in the game, I'm having those same have the same butterflies. I know what that's like. And boy, these are lawyers, man. Some of them get sick and throw up. They do. They get just as nervous.
Please be seated in the courtroom. Members of the jury, I've received information that you have a verdict. Could I have the presiding juror stand momentarily? Is that verdict?
And I gotta go potty.
As to each of the 29 counts. Yes. Could you hand it to the bailiff for me, and you may be seated?
I gotta go potty.
And counsel, please rise.
Oh, boo. Oh, get ready, y'all. No matter which way it goes, it's going to be very emotional for a lot of people. A lot of people. I'm going to say they're going to find him guilty because 6 hours for not guilty to me is unbelievably short. Hi, Brooklyn. Hey, Barbara. Yeah, I do too. I'm not saying
25 FC 0001U, the state of Texas versus Adrian Gonzales. In each of the 29 counts, we, the jury, find the defendant, Adrian Gonzales, not guilty. You see it? All right, members of the jury, I want to thank each and every one of you for your close attention.
Oh my God, you got that right. I mean, he's going to be like,
and being with us timely throughout this trial. I know it was not easy for you. I know everybody was drafted. Nobody volunteered. It was a long endeavor, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm going to ask you one more time to go with the bailiff to the jury room, and we'll release you from back there. But thank each and every one of you, and would everyone rise for the jury to be excused?
he's exonerated.
All right, Mr.
Criminally. They're suing the hell out of everybody.
Gonzales, you were acquitted by the jury. Your lawyers can talk to you more about this, but you do have the opportunity within a timely manner to file for that expunction. They will tell you further about that, but it's incumbent on me to tell you that immediately after the verdict is returned. All right, we're in recess. Thank you very much.
Here comes, I believe, his wife.
I'm going to tell them, folks, it's up to you. They're released from their instructions. I'm going to tell them that, and then I'll let them.
But that does not ease his pain of what happened that day. That does not ease what they saw and what he experienced. And I mean, this, he may not be guilty, but man, this is still not going to be an easy road for him. He was found not guilty. And the families are going to be devastated. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interviews.
I told them they're released. So they're released from all their previous instructions, and I told them lawyers may want to talk to them and to talk to them. Well, Emily, wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you for the gift card. This is devastating. I look at the faces on the families. I get it.
We don't get it. We don't get it. Do we?
I feel so bad for the families because they do deserve justice. But was this justice? Was this justice? What do you think? Do you think that he is, what do you think? What is your humble opinion? I'm getting ready to make a short, go live with the short. So please, bear with me. I'm trying to set this up. I'm trying to do two things. Justice was not served in this case. And a lot of people are going to feel that way. And I respect it. I may or may not agree. That's not my place. But I understand, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Nope, that's not what I want. I want that in white.
Jason, congratulations.
Congratulations. Wow. I feel for the families.
It's supposed to get a notification.
Uh-oh, somebody did not get a notification. I'm trying to set up my thumbnail. You feel the verdict was correct, but want to hug all the families. Yeah.
It's just like winning a black hole.
I've never seen it. It was just like winning a whining a black hole. I don't understand what they're talking about. Oh my gosh, y'all. I feel for them. Oh. So do you know what this is going to do? What do you think, and how do you think this is going to affect the other police officer, the police chief? This strengthens his case, by the way. The police chief is supposed to be next. And this strengthens his case. It does. Edit. It really does. And it's sad. It's sad for everybody involved. Like I said, my heart goes out to everybody. Okay. I'm waiting to see what the judges say. I got to do a little record in a minute. Thank you guys for holding on there with me. I'm waiting to see if they have any kind of anything else. Okay, so that's done. Mods, can we potentially, I'm looking around on YouTube for potential interviews. So they're still counting, so that's still live. That is still live. Okay, guys, give me a second. I'm going to be recording, so don't freak out. I'm going to be doing a little bit of both. I'm going to record my short because I need to get that out like now. So you're seeing me working. You're seeing a work in progress, y'all. Okay. Record myself, record my bubble head. Now hold on. Let's see if I can do it in one take. Let's see. The jury has spoken. Adrian Gonzales found not guilty on all charges. But while the courtroom reacts, my heart goes straight to the families of the victims. No verdict eases their pain. No legal outcome fills the empty chairs at their tables. Today, the decision closes a chapter in the court. But for those families, the story of grief and healing continues long after the cameras are turned off. Please hold space for them, pray for them, and remember, justice in the courtroom does not always feel like justice in the heart. Okay, I did it in one take. Hoo-ah! Don't save. Okay, I think that's it, guys. So what we're going to do is So what we need to do, y'all, is I'm looking at YouTube right now trying to find us some interviews. Mods, if you are available to help with that, that would be great. What TV station was down there? I can't play 12. I'm Googling while we're doing that. Okay. So we're looking, y'all. Patience, please. June, I know you've been kind of quiet. I know you were for guilty. I believe you were found guilty. What is sad for the families. Do not have date on that one. Thank you. He will still be brought to trial. I just hope. Yeah. I'm going there.
Another problem. Radio, he could not transmit in the school hallway, so he had to go outside, and his chief told him, you go outside and call SWAT. And that's exactly what he did. Then they had evidence of him helping kids out of the windows. So he was taking action to help kids so they wouldn't be in danger. And so I think that the jury looked at at everything, at the totality of the circumstances. And I really do think that it was a factor that there were 3 officers on the corner with a line of sight, and they didn't act. In fact, one got in a car and it went around the school. So I think that this jury, one thing we always ask the jury to do is use your common sense. This is about common sense. What does your common sense tell you about this? Did Adrian Gonzales fail to do his duty? Did he fail to do his training? But by the fact that he didn't encounter that shooter, even though he wasn't sure where he was, but the fact that he didn't run around that school and encounter the shooter is he responsible? Okay, let's see.
Rebecca's coming on.
Okay, good.
Rebecca's coming on. They don't realize that some of us have good microphones.
Okay, there's Rebecca.
Okay, there's Rebecca.
Yeah, Tanya, I'm here waiting for the defense attorneys and Adrian Gonzales to come out. There is a scheduled press conference with them. I was inside the courtroom when the verdict was read. And I will tell you, right before the verdict was read, the families were praying. They were crying. They were just sitting there hoping that the verdict would go their way. And once the verdict was read, some of the family members were just visibly sobbing. This is so heartbreaking for the families. At the same time, Adrian Gonzalez's family on the other side of the courtroom was also crying. They were relieved. And once everything was over, they went and hugged the defense attorneys. Adrian was also in tears. It's been a very emotional ordeal. Now, there were at least 3 or 4 jury statements that came out. They were asking for evidence. They were asking for videos. There was a question about one of the witnesses' testimonies, Melody Gonzales, who is the one that speaks to Adrian Gonzales. So there were some questions about that. Then the judge was going to allow them to deliberate till at least 10. But they verdict, obviously, a little while ago. And so now we are waiting for Adrian Gonzales and his attorneys to come out. We are being told that he is planning on making some statements. His attorneys have said that he has been living with, the heaviness of this case and the message that this would send to law enforcement, and also just for him and his family. He doesn't even live in Uvalde anymore. And may never be able to go back.
Surprise.
I know that there have, he's also gone through a lot, but right now the focus has also been just on the families and their reaction. It's really heartbreaking to watch because they've been through much, and they were wanting, in their words, they were wanting justice. But we all listened to the testimony and the witnesses, and I think a lot of people felt like this was the conclusion at the end of the day, that the prosecutors just did not meet their burden of proof to find Adrian Gonzales, for this jury to find Adrian Gonzales guilty.
Yeah, Rebecca, do you think, and have you heard or spoken to any of the families? Did any of the families, once they were listening to the testimony in the courtroom, do you think any of them felt one bit compassionate towards Adrian Gonzales, like he was being singled out, that maybe he's not the one that should have been in trial?
No, I don't any of the family sympathy at all towards Adrian Gonzales. I think that they wanted him to go to jail. They felt that he did not act. They were very adamant. They've done multiple interviews throughout this trial saying that, he was responsible. Had he acted and gone through that door, then perhaps their children might have served, and the teacher, their own family members. I think that maybe come to the, to the conclusion that this might be the verdict. And I think that they were preparing themselves for that. And also, one person that was very outspoken throughout this trial too was the sister of one of the teachers that died. And she had an outburst in court because the emotions of everything that has been happening. And she also felt that since her sister Adrian Gonzales was not charged with her sister's, they were not included in the counts, the teachers, the two adults, that they would be out of that. So it's been very difficult for everyone. But I do know that the families have been very critical of the prosecutors in this case. They have not had a warm, cozy relationship with the attorney for Uvalde. And there has just been a lot of tension between the families and the Uvalde County District Attorney. And they just felt that they were not doing a great job of presenting the evidence. They've said that throughout this trial. And I think that even though they're looking for them for AIDS, I do think that they're hoping that the jury would render a different verdict.
Yeah, in closing arguments, the prosecutor got up and said, I didn't bring this case for political reasons, for political purposes, which I thought was interesting. That was very early on her closing argument that she made that statement to this jury. This is not a political witch hunt, or not witch hunt, but this is not a trial because she felt political pressure, which goes to what you were saying, is that there are a lot of families who are dissatisfied with how this all was handled. Okay.
Yeah, and there has been pressure from the families to hold somebody accountable. I'm sorry, I thought so there has been pressure from the families to hold somebody accountable, because remember, there were 77 that went.
Uh-oh. Well, lost it. Okay, we're going to go to the families. Okay, great. All right.
There we go. From them.
You stand back and wait for the Army, for the Marines, everybody to show up. No one takes accountability.
What message does this send ahead of Arredondo's trial that's going to be scheduled eventually?
It's another battle, I mean, you faith is fractured, but you never lose faith. You don't lose faith because these children that are no longer with us, that are at the cemetery, they can't speak for themselves. We speak for them. We fight to the end. And as hard as it is, they deserve it. The teachers, Irma, Eva, they had nothing on them except for valor, except for courage. And they fought to the end. They pushed back hard. They gave their life. The teachers, all the survivors, all the testimonies you hear, that you heard, all those poor little survivors that have to live with the nightmare. How do they look at themselves in the mirror tomorrow morning? They wake up and say, not guilty. The man let me down. You can't paint an image and portray him as some kind of hero.
Is this like reliving the pain that you went through?
Absolutely. Time and time again with the school district, with Uvalde PD, with the county. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered. Nolasco, where's Nolasco at? Where's that information? Absolutely nothing, right? Quiet, deflecting. Look that way, look this way, look that way. But don't look towards me.
Were you really hopeful for a guilty verdict?
I was very hopeful for a guilty verdict. I mean, at stake, what do we have? We have children at stake. Absolutely innocent children that did everything that they were trained to do. Hide, turn the lights off. But the officer that was trained to do exactly, to encounter, to go towards the shooter, to listen for the gunshot, everything, right? And what does he do? Sit back for an hour and change. For a minute and change while the massacre continues to happen.
Do you think other officers need to be charged? There's only 2 so far. Do you still think more officers need to be charged?
Absolutely. It sends a message that and I'm sure there's some good ones out there that are going to check themselves in the mirror tonight and say, do I have the courage to do my job? And so, yeah, absolutely, the answer is yes. You got to look in every direction and say, I'm going to hold them accountable. Because if you don't have it, just don't show up to work tomorrow.
What message do you have for Adrian Gonzales?
Don't be fooled by your attorney. Your attorney can talk about sandwiches, a sandwich of coward, but there's something on the outside and the bread. It's insulting, to be honest with you.
Jesse, ¿podría darnos unas palabras en español, por favor, sobre el resultado de este?
Totalmente decepcionado y nos un dolor demasiado fuerte. Esperábamos una justicia, que lo hallaran culpable el Señor y totalmente fue un respeto al jurado, pero es una injusticia.
Oh yeah, this is Nico LaHood. He is one of the primary defense attorneys for Adrian Gonzales.
We didn't get a lot of time with them because then everyone couldn't leave until they left, but they were gracious enough to stay back. It was emotional for them, you can tell. They said there was gaps in the evidence. They appreciated us bringing out those gaps. They considered everything. They were very diligent. They worked very hard back there. They were very mindful and deliberate. We didn't ask them what the split was initially because there was not a lot of time for that. But obviously they were saddened because they know what the other families are mourning still.
June, we have a massive fire. I got to go. 2 hours away and they're calling me in. So can you please continue this live? I'm going to give you a minute can you pick up this live? I'll pop in the car. Are you capable of doing that, Boo? Can you pick this up? Can you keep playing this? Would you please? Because this we got a big fire and they've called me out. So I've got to go, but I need to hear from you. Can you type in chat yes or no? So I know what to do. I'll keep this playing in the meantime and you can pick it up.
But they said there was a lot of gaps in the evidence and some of it didn't make sense to them.
What do you think this message sends to law enforcement? That was a key part of your case.
Well, I don't know if this case wasn't about us trying to send a message other than to consider all the evidence. I mean, we felt Adrian was innocent from the beginning when we analyzed the situation. We knew it was going to be a challenging case because of the emotions, the sheer emotions behind it and those precious babies being taken from those families. And so we knew that. Well, I guess for us as former prosecutors and defense attorneys, we would like to see more training with law enforcement in these situations that are so active and fluid and dangerous. And there's no one size fits all for these situations, but also working with the schools. I think the schools need more funding. So that's a longer discussion though.
Jason, why did you think the state decided not to call Salcedo and Mendoza? They were on the list, and did you consider actually bringing them?
Yeah, I think we did consider it. As far as why they didn't call them, I think it was pretty clear that as the trial developed and we saw what they were trying to accuse Adrian of, we saw that there were actually other officers that were in better situations. And I mean, just as a former prosecutor like we were, I don't know that comparison was going to help their case. And so by calling these other witnesses that had line of sight to the shooter, that had these other things that Adrian never had. It was just highlighting again, which we highlighted without them there. And so as far as your question about whether or not we thought about calling them, the fact that the state didn't said a lot.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this up. I'm going to leave it on this channel. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to join this live from my car. And then when this is done, I'll shut it down myself in the vehicle, okay? So I will be back in a minute. I'm going to keep it running.
Us, and we believe said a lot to the jury, and we were able to get out our point of view on that with their evidence and the lack of who they called. And so I think that's why. And to add to Nico's thing about training, this is the first time in Texas that an officer's training has been used as a mallet or as a cudgel against the officer. And one of the problems with the training, as we kind of saw from the evidence, is that it's confusing, is that it sends mixed messages. And its purpose was never to have somebody be prosecuted who went through a class because they weren't able to perfectly gather everything about a training, or be able to apply that training in a situation that the training never contemplated. And so, I mean, I think that for law enforcement, I think that it is a wake-up call for them that they need to be aware that their training is being used by prosecutors to criminally prosecute police officers. And honestly, in this case, it wasn't right to do that to Adrian. It wasn't fair to do that to Adrian. Yeah. And it's not fair to do that to any officer, because everybody out there was trying to do what they thought was right. And we know that there were failures, but it wasn't because they wanted to fail. It's because they were trying to do what they thought was right. And just going by a training and trying to use that as part of the indictment, that was count 2 of the indictment, is going to be, that would be a problem, I think, and it needs to be addressed, whether that's, having officers, having the training people say specifically on the packet, this is not intended to be used as a criminal prosecution against any officer who goes through this training. So that was a big thing that we saw throughout. And I think also, to talk about what Nico said, we wanted these facts to come out, because as the facts come out and we see what Adrian actually was doing and what he was putting his life at risk to try to help those children. He was. That's what the proof, the prosecution didn't dispute that. The proof that everybody saw and everybody was able to see showed that Adrian was willing to risk his life and did. And that we were glad that the jury saw that. We were glad that that came out.
And that wasn't part of the narrative this whole time. And so that was challenging, because everybody heard about this case. During jury selection, this whole room had 450 people in it. And everybody raised their hand that they had heard about this case. Now, the extent of what they heard and whether they made up their mind, of course, we're doing that questioning back and forth. We had a questionnaire as well. And so that was a challenging part of this case as well, because there was a narrative out there. And frankly, with all due respect, there was a false narrative out there. And so the true monster in this situation was lost, and then it was all directed at Adrian. And so that was an uphill battle from day one in this case.
During voir dire, there was some auditory outbursts. Have you ever had a voir dire hearing where you could, that people have views? I mean, what is your sense on that?
Well, I don't think anybody's had a voir dire this way, but it was new for us as well. And we've tried a lot of cases together as prosecutors and defense attorneys. And it was unique. I mean, just the sheer size of the veneer panel was unique. And so, that was unique and that was different, but we had to deal with it. We had a plan dealing with it from day one. We had a strategy going into voir dire, to opening statements, to the way we were going to present evidence, and how we felt that we were going to use the government's witnesses to bring out points, and then wrap it up in closing. And then what we decided at the last minute to not call witnesses, because you're always trying to figure out where you're at with the jury based off how the evidence is going from the government. So those are game time decisions that we had to make.
Nico, can you just talk about your strategy here? I was very intrigued, because I think I've been wondering if you thought maybe at some point you went too hard, or you were over defending. Maybe that's not the best word. But
No, you can ask it that way.
Yeah.
And I asked the jury that specifically, and they said no. They thought it was appropriate. You're talking about Ranger Hill?
yeah, or just even in your closing, or in your closing argument, you were kind of almost apologizing
To whom?
to the jury or something if I went too hard. Or if
Well, I was referencing Ranger Hill.
Okay.
I mean, I was because you never know, and obviously I didn't take that tone with every witness. The jury said that it was appropriate based off, and that's how I felt it was, and that's why I did it. And because so yeah, I did. I think about that often. We all do when we're cross-examining witnesses. Obviously, we don't start out that way, but we have to respond appropriately based off the witness, and we prepare them in voir dire, by the way.
Is there anything else you could share with us about what the jury told you?
Just about the gaps. They talked about gaps. They talked about perspective, what the government didn't prove on Adrian, and then they saw what he did do, and based off with officers, they were very attentive, and they listened, obviously, very directly, and it seemed like they were catching our theme develop as the trial went on. We didn't have a lot of time with it. We let the government speak first. Christina wanted to talk to them and really get into it, and I knew that it was very personal to her because of the community. So we kind of yielded our time to her with them, and then the judge called us out.
I have a question, if you don't mind. How does Mr. Gonzales feel with this verdict? How does this?
Is there anything you can say? Should we hear from him if possible?
First things first, I want to start by thanking God for this. My family, my wife, and these guys are here. He put them in my path, and I'm just thankful for that. And thank you for the jury for considering all the evidence and making that verdict.
Is there anything you want to say to the families?
No, not right now.
Would you like to say anything about what this entire ordeal has been like for you?
As lawyers?
Well,
Oh, for Ms. Gonzales.
Talking to Adrian right now, obviously it's very emotional. So, but I can tell you, I think any one of you can imagine that everybody who's been here, sorry, get me in the mic, that everybody who's sitting in front of us right now, I mean, y'all can't see, I mean, the people that are watching, you can't see it, but I can see just a wall of people in front of me. And that wall of people has been reporting on Uvalde, and not necessarily unfairly, but it has been reporting ever since Adrian was charged that he failed to do his duty, because that's what the prosecutor's charged, and that he failed in some way to try to do everything he could to help these children. And the evidence showed that that wasn't true. And the evidence showed that not only did he not fail, but he put himself in great danger. So you can imagine how somebody who has had the entire country look at him as somebody who was not willing to do his duty. And he is a proud man who does do his duty. And he went in there when it was time for him to go. He went in there, he was one of the first 5 in. And going down a hall where a rifle.
Okay, guys, I'm on my way. I'll see you on the road.
Easily ended his life, could have easily made his wife a widow. And he was willing to do it because he did want to protect those children. So he went through all of that. And so the feeling that he's communicated, and that he'll be able to communicate, I think, in the future, is that it was obviously extremely difficult. It was difficult for the community, difficult for his family, difficult for him.
Ego and Adrian, you guys shared a pretty powerful hug right after that verdict. Just walk me through the emotions in that moment.
I mean, it's overwhelming for him. For us as well, we take on the burdens of our clients. We take it very personally. For me, I believe it's about stewardship. When a client comes to us as a firm and says, I trust you with my life, I mean, it's not, I take that very serious. I don't sleep. I'm a prayerful man. I pray for wisdom in how to handle and how to conduct ourselves in trial and to think. And for us, we got to make sure that nobody's going to outwork us. And so for us, it was kind of a culmination of his trust in us and our hard work together. And we didn't do it alone. These 2 lawyers are amazing. I learn from them every day, but then we have Michelle and Joseph as well. And then the team back at the office. So it was bittersweet, bitter because we know that there's people that are sad over this verdict. And as someone who's gone through the loss of my brother who was murdered in my driveway, and I know what it did to my parents. And so I felt for the family. I thought of the family. I was hugging him, for us, and for the family members, to be honest with you.
Mr. Levin, you've been a DA. You've been on the other side. You also brought up Randy Hill. Do you think and can others be charged in this?
Oh, I'm not going to make a charging decision for Christina. She's the elected DA. She has to answer to her voters. But
I get that,
and make that, yeah.
I mean, you brought him up to the jury in closing. Do you think there's other people that share a couple billion?
I'll reserve my judgment on that, my comment on that.
So why do you think they haven't charged anybody else? I mean, it went from DPS all the way down, and they ended up with Adrian and Pete Arredondo.
I'm not going to speak for Chief Arredondo. I think for Adrian, it's what we said in closing. He was the lowest man on the totem pole, and I think they thought he was easier pickings. I mean, I'm not speaking to Christina's intention. I mean, I'm not saying it was, with immoral or anything like that or unethical. But I mean, I just thought they probably thought he was the easiest one to charge, in my opinion.
I want to ask you, very few of us have seen everything in this. You've had access to everything. Is there something that the country can learn, law enforcement can learn from this, based on your experience, based on what you've seen here? Because this is going to happen again, sadly, in this country.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, this is a synergistic effect. When I said in closing that if that school door would have been locked, if those classroom doors would have been locked, if they had cameras on the outside of the schools, if we had officers that to Jason's point, had clarity in their training and then had the resources of what to do, if there was officers assigned to schools with the right equipment, with a long rifle, with handguns. I know it looks bad for people, but this looks even worse, and it feels worse for those precious families. I mean, so what is it going to cost us to protect our treasure, which is our children? We should say there's no cost. Money should be no object. And so if you want to make difference, you have to bring everyone together, training in shoot houses, meaning actively train in realistic scenarios. So these officers will, as they say, fight like they train. You have to train. You can't just do PowerPoints and think that someone has information that's going to sink in. This is muscle memory, as it came up during trial. So this is a longer conversation that I'm happy to have because we've seen situations like this before. But it's a synergistic effect of many of the things that I just mentioned.
Adrian, what does moving on look like to you?
Just picking up the pieces and moving forward. That's it.
Adrian, do you speak Spanish? Como nada más para ver how do you feel in Spanish?
No.
The prosecution made it clear that they wanted this case to be a message for other law enforcement officers to find themselves in a similar position in the future. Do you believe that this case could be used as precedent for other cases?
I hope not. I hope other prosecutors don't see this case and think that they can go forward with these specific facts, with the law that they used as a case of first impression, with the training that the officers did or didn't have, with the resources that were not provided for them, with the school district that unfortunately did not provide the best situation for those children. I hope this is not the example moving forward, and I don't think it will be, but I can't make that decision for them.
Mr. Hood, the families are distraught, in tears. Your message to them?
I'll continue to pray for them. I mean, I can't. To say that I understand, I've experienced that with my own family and with my brother's passing, but I mean, it's a genuine hurt for them. It was bittersweet. There's no winners in this situation because they're still mourning, and I understand that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Tanya, yeah, we heard that the defense team did speak to the jury. The jury explained some of the reasons they came to the decision that they came to. One of them is that there were gaps in the state's evidence that, again, if you use your common sense, they can't overlook the gaps.
Right.
That they just didn't feel like the state proved its case. And I say this with a lot of compassion for the family, but the criminal justice system worked tonight.
Right.
It worked this entire trial. It worked. The state has the burden of proof. They have to prove every element of the indictment. Those are the elements that they've charged him with, and they have to prove each one of those. And the defense does not have to present a case. They can cross-examine, and that's what they did. And it looked to me like what they were doing is they were turning the state's witnesses into defense witnesses. And I know you agree, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, yes. We're going to go listen to the families.
I mean, I'm no future teller. I can't tell what's going to happen, but we've got to get it right. If not for us, if not for our kids, I just want people to start acting for their own.
Why is your presence here at the courthouse important?
Because I made a promise to my son that I would never stop fighting, and you know, this country, the state already made a liar out of me once when I swore to him that I would never let anything bad happen to him. They made a liar out of me. The city, the school, the state, the gun industry, they all made liars out of me. Nothing will make a liar out of me when it comes to fighting for my son.
Great, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
About
Okay.
So talk to us about just kind of react. You know, Jason Goss was talking about how saying that basically the officer's training was being used against him. Talk about that.
Yeah, right. What they were said is this is the first trial where an officer's training came in to indict them, basically
on an active shooter,
on an active shooter, because he said, as he said, if they aren't perfect and didn't follow the training. And by the way, what they did point out in the trial is that there is not all trainers train the same way, and not all trainers have the same idea of what active shooting looks like. It is not like a mandate from the state that this is how you conduct active shooting training. And the witness that they brought in, he didn't even they didn't even ask him if he thought, the state did not even ask the trainer whether or not Adrian Gonzales failed at his duty. They didn't even ask him that. And so, but he did admit that this is one curriculum and there are other curriculums for training. But Jason Goss's point is that this is the first time that an officer's training was used against them, and the fact that he wasn't perfect. He again. What you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. You have to understand that none of these officers thought this was a bailout. They just thought it was maybe a standard bailout. I think they had 40 bailouts from March to May. And so that's what they thought it was, somebody running through the school. They didn't know. So the minute and a half that the state was indicting basically Adrian Gonzales for is you're eliminating and you're taking out of the equation what a human being, an officer, has been trained and what he would normally do in this type of situation. And again, I think what really hurt the state is that they conceded the fact that Adrian Gonzales never laid eyes on the shooter. He did not know where he was. He was trying to ascertain information, and he was trying to communicate that information to other officers. He was calling for backup. He was doing something. But what I thought was I think Nico LaHood is relatable. And I think out of all the attorneys, he was very relatable, as he even mentioned that his own brother was murdered in his driveway, and he knew the pain that caused his family, and knows the pain that this jury was going through. I mean, not the jury, the families are going through. So he came across, you bring yourself into the trial. You don't leave yourself at home. You bring your experiences, you bring who you are into a trial. And I really think Nicola Hood was relatable. And I think he related to the jury. The jury probably related to him. He kept emphasizing that he didn't want to be disrespectful, but I have to ask the tough questions. I think that he just did a very good job of staying on track. And that's one thing he said, is he thought that the jury just realized what direction they were going, what their message was, constantly kept hammering the same message. And I think that's what got lost with the state, is that you weren't exactly sure what their message was, where they were going. You weren't sure. They would bring in a ballistics expert, and then on the maybe, and this isn't exactly it, but this is basically the order in which they call their witnesses. They might have a ballistics expert, and then they might call in a doctor who worked in the emergency room. And then they might bring in a Texas Ranger to testify what Adrian Gonzales said. And then they might bring in a family member whose child was injured and in the hospital. So it felt disjointed. Okay.
What do you think about what Adrian Gonzales had?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Adrian spoke for just a moment, and he thanked the jury. He thanked them, I'm sure, for not just gratuitously, thank you. I'm not going to have to go to state jail, prison now, or whatever. I'm not guilty. But he thanked the jury. But I believe the question was back to him, do you have anything to say to the family? And he said, no, I don't.
What do you think about that?
I think that maybe that was an opportunity for him to, if nothing else, Nicola Hood said, who's the defense attorney again, who said, I continue to pray for them. But if Adrian Gonzales had just said, I'm praying for them, then maybe that would have been more appropriate than, no, I don't have anything to say. And as you notice, his defense attorney, Jason Goss, stepped in then and said, this is an emotional time. We're going to let Adrian process this. This is just we're just, in other words, we're not going to let him say anything else for the most part, without saying that. But yes, I think that would have been an opportunity for him to say, I'm praying for this family. I'm praying for the families.
What do you think about what we heard from the families, though?
Yeah, I asked Rebecca. I wondered, after the families who were in the courtroom and listened to all the testimony, did they have any kind of maybe compassion for Adrian Gonzales? Did they feel like maybe he was scapegoated? Did they feel like other officers should be indicted. And she said no, they have never expressed that, and that's what we heard with the
Right.
father, who said, this again is just a slap in the face, is that we've lost these children, and everybody let us down. The officers let us down. The schools let us down. On and on and on. There were a lot of people, a lot of entities that he feels that let them down, and nobody's had to pay for it.
Okay, so let's go take a listen to Adrian Gonzales.
First things first, I want to start by thanking God for this. My family, my wife, and these guys are here. He put them in my path, and I'm just thankful for that. And thank you for the jury for considering all the evidence and making that verdict.
Is there anything you want to say to the families?
No, not right now.
Would you like?
Okay, so Terry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Again, he's thanking his defense team. He's thanking the jury. He's grateful. Of course he is. He's got to be relieved. And, it goes without saying that he's been traumatized as well. I mean, the whole experience was traumatizing for him as well. It doesn't excuse the 77 minutes before they breached that classroom. I think that's what most people think for sure. And we're going to go listen to the verdict again. If you didn't hear it, this is a not guilty, and we're going to go listen to the verdict from the trial.
The state of Texas versus Adrian Gonzales. In each of the 29 counts, we, the jury, find the defendant, Adrian Gonzales, not guilty. You see it? All right, members of the jury, I want to thank each and every one of you for your close attention and your patience and being with us timely throughout this trial. I know it was not easy for you. I know everybody was drafted. Nobody volunteered. It was a long endeavor. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm going to ask you one more time to go with the bailiff to the jury room, and we'll release you from back there. But thank each and every one of you, and would everyone rise for the jury to be excused. All right, Mr. Gonzales.
What's your reaction?
Yeah, well, the reaction is that I think those 12 jurors did an outstanding job. And not just because they came back with a verdict that I think was the right verdict. They came back with a verdict because they thought it was the right verdict. They spent all afternoon. I think they broke after closing arguments around lunchtime. They deliberated through lunch. They spent all day deliberating. They did not make a hasty decision one way or the other. They looked at the evidence. I know I was texting you at 5:30 thinking that the judge was going to release them at 5:30, and you said no. The judge said they're going to go until 10 o'clock if they need to tonight. And so the jury sent out some questions for the judge, and that's the only way they can communicate, by the way, with the judge, is they've got to send out notes to the judge, and then the judge can respond. And usually, certainly, if they are asking for pieces of evidence, the judge is going to send back that evidence. And you mentioned they asked for a laptop, an easel.
They wanted a list of the evidence. They wanted the order of witnesses. They wanted a monitor. And then they had some other question. Rebecca mentioned what it was. And
yeah,
they had something about Melody Flores, I think.
Right. Yeah. They wanted to know more about her testimony, I think, too. So they did their due diligence. I don't know. And I couldn't hear Nico LaHood, again, the defense attorney, at first when he started talking about his conversation with the jury. I don't know if they were unanimous all along. I don't know if they took a vote and some were split, if it was a split vote. I don't know, and I think I'm going to try to find that out. But I'm curious about that. Oftentimes, the first vote is a split vote, and then as they talk more about the evidence and the case and what they heard, and it is a discussion, then oftentimes people will change their mind. I mean, you can see any television show about jury deliberation and know that. But that I'm not exactly sure what he said about whether or not the jury was split for a while. But,
Right. Hey, Pete. Pete's the producer back there. What's the chances you could pull up Nico LaHood's what he said? I mean, can you you don't have that ready? Okay. If this is not done on a dime, they have to clip it and put it in the system so we can actually re-listen to it. As I watched this trial throughout, I just kept thinking, why this guy? Like, why this guy out of all the police officers? And it kind of came down to, well, he's the first one there by like 45 seconds. And then I'm going, well, wait a minute. He does do things. Maybe you don't like what he did. He drives up on to the school grounds. He goes to Melody Flores. He's trying to ascertain what's happening. Maybe he should have gone into school faster. I don't know. I wasn't in that situation. And it felt like we were doing an extreme case of Monday morning quarterbacking.
Right.
And then when you find out and you understand that there are officers on the other side that have line of sight of the shooter and that one of them has a rifle, and you just go, wait a minute. Well, okay, I'm trying to understand. And, what happened there was horrific and tragic and terrible. But Adrian Gonzales is not responsible for that entire 77 minutes.
No. And if he didn't do his duty and follow his training, then what about the other three officers? What about the other officers that came on the scene and were standing around and didn't even go into the school? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So that's why people were like, what is it? Why this guy? And as the defense attorney said, he was a low man on the totem pole. Maybe he was easy picking, because it really didn't make any sense, because he didn't just huddle behind his car hiding from a potential shooter. He did take action. So I think that what he was held accountable for is that when he heard the shooting, because that's in the indictment, when he heard the shooting, that he didn't just say, I'm going, I don't know what I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to be facing, but it was almost as if the thought was, it didn't matter if you were going to be mowed down by by a killer who was going to kill anyone in his path.
But he doesn't. He doesn't know what that. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get my voice. There he goes. He doesn't know what he's confronting.
Exactly. But they expect him to go anyway. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And as I pointed out, even with the officers training, that's not what they're trained to do. They're not trained to go into a situation that they don't know what's going on. They try to gather as much information as they can. And they were talking about the gunshots. They weren't exactly sure where the gunshots were even coming from because of the echo off the building. So it was a completely confusing situation. And that's why it's hard. Everything in retrospect looks a little bit different than if you're right in the middle of a chaotic, very horrible, terrifying situation. Everything is a little bit different. And, officers aren't robots, and they are not superheroes. They are human beings. And so, yes, they need more training. And that is one thing that the defense attorney said, that a reporter asked him. So what do we learn from this? What should we take away from this? And what he said is that we need more training for officers, obviously, and maybe a more consistent training, and also that more resources for the schools. Because one of the things that came out in testimony is that these doors didn't lock, or they had goofy locks on those doors because they didn't have the money to change them out.
Right.
I mean, you look at that and go, that is crazy. they couldn't lock, and they used magnets to keep the doors open, because if they locked, it was up and down, and they had to let a student in who had gone to the bathroom. So they even issued these magnets to keep these doors from locking. So if they had had the proper, maybe the proper locks, if they had had the funding, if they had had support, then maybe the story would have been different. But as a parent, I don't want you to learn all this stuff when my child is sacrificed. I don't want my child to be the sacrificial lamb for your training or your funding. I mean, that is why I'm sure they're so appalled. It's just like, even if Adrian Gonzales is the low-hanging fruit, he's fruit. And we want somebody to pay. We want someone to be held accountable. And the monster cannot be held accountable in a court of law. And as Nico LaHood said, the officers breached that door, finally went in there and sent that son of a bitch to hell. I mean, it was... He was going to kill anyone he came in contact with. So those officers did the best they could at the time. I don't know if that's the case for 77 minutes. They didn't have the equipment. They're waiting for certain equipments to breach that door. It just seems ridiculous that there are 377 officers out there and they could not have acted faster. Nobody understands that. Tanya asks, would we be here? Would Adrian Gonzales be indicted for endangering children if the shooter were alive? And my answer to that is no. I don't think so. They would be trying a shooter for capital murder, attempted capital murder, because you murder those children, and that's capital murder. And he would be tried for attempted capital murder. I think that the person who was responsible for this would be tried, and I don't know if the officers would be, because if you think about it, if they had gone in and captured him, there still would have been 77 minutes, right? There still would have been 77 minutes while that these officers were waiting to go in. So if they were able to capture this monster, as they kept referring to him, if they were able to capture him somehow and he was alive, and then they could try him, there were still children who bled to death. There was a teacher who bled to death because they didn't get in there fast enough. So where do prosecutors go from here? I think that they reevaluate their case. I think they grieve. I think they will grieve. I think this is, I think that they probably will look at the Chief Arredondo's case, and I do think that they'll try him. And I think that their case will be, they learned a lot from this experience. I think they learned a lot from Adrian's case. I think they're going to be probably more strategic in how they present the evidence in this case. And by the way, they also know where their weaknesses are. They know where those witnesses are that can actually hurt them once they take the stand. And again, it's the indictment of one officer when there are so many who didn't act. But he was in charge. He was the chief of the school resource officers, the six member school resource officers, but he was the chief. He got there first, and he should have taken charge, but he didn't. So they may try him.
You think?
Yeah, I do think it'll be a different trial. I definitely think it'll be a different trial. I think both the defense, whoever Arredondo's defense team is, they learned a lot from this trial. And I think the prosecutors learned quite a bit from this trial. I do think it'll be different. I think they will be able to say, we can hold him responsible. We can hold Chief Arredondo responsible. He was the he was the point man. He didn't follow his training because he didn't set up a command situation. He didn't do this, he didn't do that. But so I do think that they will have a different argument when it comes to the chief, without a doubt. All right. Okay. So we have had a dramatic last 9 days. We ended up with a trial, a not guilty verdict. The jury did its job, and we will learn a lot from this. And we'll be here continuing to talk about this. And thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, the outcome, what happened to these children. But I think this was a win for justice.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry for my voice.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
And so we're going to wrap it, folks. And we'll be back when we have the next trial.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Okay, guys, I'm waiting for the fire truck. We have a truck coming this way. I'm going to catch up with them, and then I'm going to get on the truck. So it's going to be a busy night for me. It's a huge fire. So y'all be in prayer for everyone's safety. But we will be live tomorrow morning. Come hell or high water, I'll be there. I may be a wee bit tired, but I'll be there. And we will go live. I think it's at 9 a.m., whatever time it is, we'll be live. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. June, thank you so much. Y'all have a fabulous day. There's a lot of California wings. There's a lot of people I haven't seen. Jenny, thank you so much. Jim, I'm just saying thank you for being here. I don't have my glasses on, so this is challenging. But all of you who joined, please join us again tomorrow morning. In the meantime, y'all have a good night. I'm trying to figure out how to go live. Oh, I'm signing off. See you in the morning.